Hello, Blue Jays fans, and welcome to Sunny Side of the Dome. I'm your host, Karen Soutar, and I'm here for the next half an hour or so to talk some Blue Jays baseball with you. Sunny Side of the Dome is brought to you by Jays from the Couch. We stream live Thursdays at 6 p.m. Now, in the off season, we've decided to go every other week for the time being, rather than every week. And you can find us every other week on Jays from the Couch's YouTube channel. We also stream live on Facebook or Twitter. You can find us on Jays from the Couch's pages on any of those aforementioned medium. And if you happen to be watching, listening live, and you think of a question or comment, please do send them all in. I love that interaction. I really do think it makes the show that much better to get the other people's perspectives and so forth. And if you'd like the content here at Sunny Side of the Dome, there's lots more where that came from. There's Jays from the Couch's main podcast. That's Monday evenings at 6 p.m. That's hosted by Sean Doyle, Jays from the Couch's founder, senior editor, and he's usually got other people on there with him, sometimes me, and lots of interesting perspectives, lots of things to talk about, informative, fun. We added a fake news segment just for some laughs a little while ago. And the other show is at the Unfect Circle, which is Tuesdays at 6 p.m. And that's hosted by Steve Feck, my crazy Jays from the Couch colleague. And Steve is very unique. He's smart. He is insightful. He has lots of knowledge about baseball and the industry. He's funny, and he really has a unique way of looking at things, I believe. So, you should definitely watch and listen if you haven't been, because Steve will definitely keep you on your toes and make you think about things in ways that possibly you haven't already done so. So, happy Thursday evening, Blue Jays fans. How's everything going? I'm doing all right. I mean, it's hard to be without our Toronto Blue Jays. The MLB playoffs, as everybody knows, are still in full swing. They're down to 4 teams, and I really still do think that our Blue Jays should be there. They're not. Nothing we can do about it. I mean, we just have to kind of, each of us deal with that in our own way and and keep moving forward and very much looking forward to 2022. So, excuse me just a moment. So, leading off as I usually do, I usually spend a good amount of time on transactions, and believe it or not, there were actually a couple of transactions just a couple of days ago. Even though the season is over and with the playoffs still going on, they cannot sign. It's not free agent season yet, and they can't make any trades. All of that is frozen until after the World Series. But they did make 2 moves. They activated Joaquin Soria. You may remember he ended the year on the 10-day COVID IL, so I assume that means that he's officially recovered, hopefully. An interesting move, and I don't know all that there is to know about this. I mean, it must be some sort of formality that they had to reinstate him because he's eligible for free agency. And honestly, no disrespect, but he just, between different things happening, he really didn't do a lot, unfortunately, to help the Blue Jays win. He had a few outings. A couple of them were pretty good, a couple of them not that good. And yeah, with him eligible for free agency, I'd be surprised to see him back. But anyway, he's been officially added to the active roster. And in order to do so, they needed a spot on the 40-man roster. So pitcher Jacob Burns was actually designated for assignment. So again, he's someone the Jays picked him up mid-season from the New York Mets, and they came over. And he came over, and he was so-so. I mean, maybe his first few outings outings weren't that bad, but then after a while, you could see why the Mets were willing to let him go for not very much. So anyway, all the best, Jacob Burns, wherever you end up, and who knows, he could go unclaimed this time of year, and maybe he'll stay in the Blue Jays system as a non-roster player. So that's that's your transactions for now on this day on the off season on October the 21st, I believe it is. So on to the heart of the order. So again, as we all know, the Blue Jays did not make the playoffs. They came oh so close. 91-71, 20 games over 500, tied for the sixth best record in Toronto Blue Jays franchise history. To me, even though I wanted them to make the playoffs, I expected them to be a wild card team right up until and including when their last game ended and they were still in it and waiting to see what would happen with the Boston Red Sox. But I wanted and believed that they would be in the playoffs, and in spite of that, because of all that they did accomplish, because of their overall record, just 2 years after going 67-95, like that's one heck of an improvement to be that much better in such a short space of time. And even the improvements that they made during the season. At the beginning of the year, I used to say they're still a work in progress. They're not a finished product by any means, and I didn't expect them to win the World Series. With the improvements that they made between changing personnel and even internal improvements, guys that were on the team all year, who probably worked on things behind the scenes and got better. Early in the season, their defense was a concern, and later on, not as much as it was, and thank goodness for that. So I feel like they made some improvements, and I'm reasonably happy with the progress that they made. I just wanted them to move forward. So with an eye toward moving forward and what's next for the Toronto Blue Jays, this past week, a couple of days ago, Blue Jays president Mark Shapiro held his end of the season media press conference. Now, I don't know if you guys watched it, listened to it. Maybe some of you did. I tuned in after the fact. It was in the middle of the workday, of course. But I definitely wanted to hear and see what Mark Shapiro had to say. And there were some things that really caught my attention, and honestly, some things that I'm feeling pretty good about. So here I'm going to give you the highlights and what I feel that it all means. So first off, and fairly early on in the conference, Shapiro did say, and pardon me, I don't have all of his exact words written down, so in some cases I'll be paraphrasing a tiny bit, but he did say that they wanted absolutely every Blue Jays fan to know that they were committed to bringing a World Series winning team to Toronto. Pardon me as my eyes tear up a little bit. It's hard to even say that and think about it without getting a little bit emotional when you're a super fan as I am. But honestly, I believe him. After everything that they just went through in 2021, and to get so close to the playoffs, and we'll never know what this exact team in 2021 would have done had they made the playoffs. Here's the Boston Red Sox, a wild card team that are in the American League Championship Series. Yes, they currently trail the series 3-2 to the Houston Astros, and who knows what's going to happen in Game 6 and possibly Game 7. But this is a wild card team that's done very well for themselves. The other wild card team in the National League, Atlanta, they're killing it against the LA Dodgers, last year's champions that won, what did they win, 106 games, and the Giants won 107. So yeah, excuse me, it really is true what they say, that the postseason, it's a second season, and the regular season standings are what get the teams to the playoffs, but once you get in the door, really anything can happen, and we won't know how far our Jays would have gone this year had they gotten in, unfortunately. But yeah, after all of that, after Summings coming so very close, Shapiro and the Blue Jays, they're committed to bringing a team to Toronto that will win the World Series. So I've always believed that this group had it in them, has it in them, and it's going to be so exciting to see it all come to fruition. I have no doubt whatsoever that he means that. I think he's in this to win. So, and the thing too, and the thing that I ask everybody to remember, and some of you might already agree with this, some of you might still not like this head front office, and I mean you're entitled to that. But in my opinion, Mark Shapiro, Ross Atkins, when they have something to say to the public, I don't think they've ever come out and said something that was the exact opposite of what actually happened. I mean, they took over the team after 2015 and they said right off that their priority was rebuilding the farm system, and they did that. And I mean, we knew in 2019 that it wasn't going to be a year that they would likely compete for a championship, that it was likely going to be a rebuilding year, and it was, and the record reflected that. But the players, they just made so much progress in season. So I mean, again, for me, when these guys come out and say something like that, I don't think they're full of baloney. I think they really mean what they're saying. So there's that. They're committed to winning a World Series. Shapiro, he made the comment a couple of times about having the three homes, and as much as the city of Dunedin and Buffalo did everything that they could to accommodate the Toronto Blue Jays, it wasn't the same as playing in Toronto. And more than anything, I think it's the fans, the actual Blue Jays fans that showed up in Toronto once the Blue Jays were actually allowed to be there and play in front of fans. I mean, there's nothing like playing in front of 15,000 or 30,000 or whatever it is number of people that are actually cheering you on. And Shapiro believes, and I can't help but agree, that had they been allowed to play in Toronto for the entire season, maybe that would have been good for at least one more win. I don't have trouble believing that. I don't know about anybody else who's watching, but yeah, and that one more win would have gotten them at least to game 163, and who knows how they would have done in the tiebreaker. But yeah, I mean, the team they finished that year with, they were very strong. Their offense, their starting pitching, they'd improved the bullpen and the defense. So anything could have happened. However, what might have been, it wasn't. So we do move on. A couple of other points that he made, that they're kind of tied to each other, and again, it really gives me personally reason for hope and optimism. So when they talked about the collective bargaining agreement, so if there are any baseball fans out there who don't know, and I'm not sure that there are, but the current collective bargaining agreement between MLB, the owners, and MLBPA, the Players Association, aka all of the players, that agreement expires on December the 1st of this year. And there's been all kinds of speculation that the owners and players are just so far apart about the things that they want, that there's rumors of the possibility of some sort of work stoppage, either a strike or a lockout. Knock on wood. Obviously, no, nobody wants to see that. Certainly, baseball fans don't want to see that. Well, one thing he commented, Shapiro did, that the CBA negotiations won't have much impact on the Blue Jays as far as making free agent signings and or making trades. That's huge, because personally, I've heard a fair bit of speculation behind the scenes that, oh, well, until the CBA is resolved, that not only the Blue Jays, but there might be a lot of teams, most teams even, might be reluctant to either make trades or sign free agents to anything other than a one-year deal, to your multi-year, big expensive deals, because we don't know what the CBA is going to look like going forward. Is free agency going to happen a year sooner than it is now, for example? If you trade for someone and you think you're getting them for 3 years, maybe you're only getting them for 2 years. I don't know. I mean, I'm speculating, I'm guessing. But yeah, it was very, very good to hear that at the very least, the upcoming CBA should not be an issue for the Blue Jays, that they expect it to be business as usual as far as their offseason and trying to accomplish the things that they want to accomplish. And then, speaking still about the CBA, Shapiro said that the commissioner expects a new collective bargaining agreement to actually be worked out and we're ready to be signed and in place by December 1st. Now, again, that's no guarantee that that's what's actually going to happen, but just to hear that that is at least the expectation, that's that's so it brings me so much hope to think that maybe things will get done and there'll be labor peace for however many years, whether it's another 5 years or however long they sign it for. Because, and I mean, really, the shutdown that took part of the 2020 season, that didn't benefit anybody. It was necessary because of COVID and keeping everybody safe until they could figure out what to do and how to safely have a season, or as safely as possible. But yeah, I mean, shutdowns don't benefit anybody. They don't benefit team owners because they don't make any revenue when there are no games. They're not selling any tickets. There's no TV revenue to be had, nothing like that. Players don't get paid, so it doesn't benefit them. Definitely doesn't benefit baseball fans who want to see their team or their teams, and there's nothing going on. So I really think the motivation is there to get a deal done. Obviously, I'm not behind the scenes, and I'm not there to see how close the two sides are and what it's going to take to get a deal done. But fingers crossed that if it's not December 1st, it'll be pretty close to that, and that they can somehow avoid any kind of work stoppage. So, excuse me just a moment. Okay, so the Blue Jays, while they do have a majority of the team that they finished 2021 with, either under contract or team control for at least 2022, and in most cases longer than 2022. So that's great. As everybody knows, there are some notable free agents. And the ones that I think that people have talked the most about, certainly Robbie Ray, Marcus Semien, and to a lesser extent, but still part of the conversation, Steven Matz. So 2 starting pitchers and Marcus Semien. So I mean, Robbie Ray will definitely be in the conversation for Cy Young. I've got him as the winner. In 2021, I think he outperformed the field, so to speak. And Marcus Semien was terrific. I mean, you really couldn't have asked for more from him. Coming in, he had the offense, defense, leadership. Other players commented on how much he helped them, some younger, less experienced players. So just so much that would be great as far as him coming back. So Shapiro had some comments about them specifically and then more generally. So again, paraphrasing to an extent, love to have them all back. That they are the players that the Toronto Blue Jays will compete for their services, for all of them, in the open market because they can be free agents. And I'm assuming, I don't know if Steven Matz will get a qualifying offer. That'll kind of be an interesting call. The other two, absolutely. And I don't expect either of them to take it because they know that they can get bigger money by going to free agency and getting a contract in that way. But anyway, so love to have them back. The Toronto Blue Jays will compete for them. However, he said he is of the mind that you don't go out into free agency absolutely having to have any one specific player or 2 specific players or whatever. What you have to do is get better. is for the team to get better. And to be honest, I heard that, I thought about it for a bit, and I think he's right. I think that's the attitude that a president or general manager should really have. I mean, like I said, I really, Robbie Ray and Marcus Simeon, I really, really hope that they both come back. And Stephen Matz to a lesser extent. At times he was very good, at other times, but I mean, if he comes back and he's the fifth starter, he's a pretty good fifth starter. So we'll see what happens. But I mean, for me, I think that's the attitude that you have to take, because there's no guarantee that any or all of these guys are going to come back to the Toronto Blue Jays. And as long as you find good players to replace them, however you do it, whether you sign other free agents, whether you make a big trade or two, but there are other ways. I'm not ruling it out. I'm still optimistic that at least one, if not two, or dear, we hope all three will be back next year. I'm still cautiously optimistic that that'll happen. But if it doesn't, we shouldn't hang our heads. We shouldn't think, oh, well, that's it. Our competitive window just went out the window. Because there's other guys out there. There's other ways that they can win. And I believe in this front office. I think they've done a really, really good job so far with what they've had to work with. And they're going to keep pushing it forward. So in order to do that, what are they going to do? What will team payroll look like? Well, according to Shapiro, nothing has been finalized yet. Apparently, there's a final meeting to be had between Blue Jays management and Rogers, who owns the team, and then they'll get some clarity as far as what they're allowed to do for payroll and that. And I mean, if nothing is official, then of course he can't come out and say, well, this is what the number is, if it hasn't been finally approved or anything. I wanted to highlight something, and something I actually find very interesting. So as I've mentioned before on this show, I'm very active on Twitter, and one of the accounts that I follow, and I have no idea who the person is behind this account, but this person calls him or herself Blue Jay Hot Stove. So that's at Blue Jay, without the S, Blue Jay Hot Stove, all one word, all lowercase. And as I said, I don't know who's behind this account, but I read some of their tweets during this season. And if you're on Twitter and you're a Jays fan and you're not following this person, I highly recommend that you do so. Because going back on July the 4th, they tweeted that the Blue Jays were working to have the team back in Toronto with fans in attendance for the series that started on July the 30th, and that all levels of government were expected to approve. July the 4th, they tweeted that. On July the 16th, it was announced that the Blue Jays had received approval to come back to Toronto and play starting on July the 30th, and then they made it happen. But I'm sure they were working behind the scenes long before that date. More information. So another tweet by this account, September 21st. If you're thinking of buying expensive tickets to see the Blue Jays and Yankees on the secondary market, maybe you want to give it 48 hours. September 21st. That's when this tweet was made. September 24th. It was announced that they were allowed to increase their capacity from 15,000 maximum up to 30,000. So, of course, lots more tickets went on sale. Whoever the owner of this account is, and I have no clue who it is, it seems like this person has access to some good information before the general public has it. So again, someone I strongly recommend that you follow for some good information. So why am I bringing up this account? Well, so after the Shapiro press conference, our Mr. or Ms. Blue Jays Hot Stove had another tweet with regarding to payroll, that the Blue Jays team payroll, according to this person, in 2022 is expected to be $180 million. with the potential to go over that number for the right situation, and fill in the blanks with your own imagination as far as what the right situation is. But a superstar becomes available, and they're going to cost some money. Maybe Rogers would sign off on it. So again, this when this Blue Jays hot stove account tweets something, I tend to take notice because of all that they've been right about before anyone else really knew what was going on. So that would be significant. That would be a bump from where their payroll was in 2021. It would definitely represent continuing to move forward. And really, as far as contractual commitments, the Blue Jays only have 4 players that are actually under contract for next year. So George Springer, just under $30 million for 2022. That's $29,666,666. Hyunjin Ryu at an even $20 million. Randall Grichuk at $10,333,333. And then Lourdes Gurriel Jr. at just under $5 million, 4.928, wherever they came up with that number from. So that's $65 million. Now, obviously, there are a number of players that are under team control. Some of them arbitration eligible, some of them not yet, that they're definitely going to keep around. Vladimir Guerrero Jr., Teoscar Hernandez, Jose Barrios, and, there's lots of them that they're going to keep around. And so whatever they end up being paid, bottom line is there's going to be some money there that the Blue Jays will have the ability to spend. So I am looking forward to this offseason. I'm not looking forward to all the rumors because they can kind of drive me crazy. I don't know about you, but I'm looking forward to some good things actually getting done. When there's factual information out there, I will digest it as well as all of you will, all Blue Jays fans will. And I really think that the Jays are going to get better. They're going to get better on paper. They're going to get better in reality on the field with an entire season in Toronto, and with a team on the field that finished the season the way they did in 2021. Knock on wood, hopefully everybody's healthy, and I'm really excited to see what they can do going forward. So that almost brings me to the end of today's show, which means it's time for 3 Blue Jays colored glasses. So just continuing with the theme of today, that Mark Shapiro, he went out there and he put some information out there. Oh, another interesting tidbit that he shared, apparently next year the Rogers Center will have a brand new scoreboard, so that'll be interesting to see what that looks like. And I'm expecting our Blue Jays to put up lots of runs that they'll have to report on that scoreboard. But I think I'm so happy and so excited about the steps forward that this team has taken individually as a group. And just in 2 short years, from 2019 being pretty much a last place team. I think they were 4th and the Orioles were 5th. But 67 and 95, nothing to get too excited about unless you're looking to the future. And then there was 2020, and we all know about 2020, 60 games and expanded playoffs. And they got into the playoffs, but really they didn't do much last year. Last year they were a bit fighting out over their weight, so to speak, to even have made the playoffs, I have to say. But still good progress by the team. And then to watch them every day and continuing to get better. Some guys that just weren't helping, that they weren't afraid to eat the rest of the salary and cut ties with them. Tanner Roark, Tyler Chatwood. I mean, there were a few of them. We know Rafael DeLeese and all of those guys that spent some time in Jays uniforms this season, but unfortunately really didn't help very much or at all. Well, you know what? The Jays didn't finish the season with those guys. They're committed to winning. They're committed to keeping the guys that help them win and building around them and adding where it's a good idea to do and necessary, like trading for Jose Barrios, like bringing up Alek Manoah when, I'll be honest, I was afraid that it was a little early just because he didn't have very much minor league experience. But they knew what they were doing. They know more than some fan or whatever, and he had a terrific season. Barrios proved to be a terrific addition. I mean, everybody really came together, as Marcus Semien said in his interview right after the last game, once the season was over. He said, "We became, I believe, the best team in baseball, but it was just a tick too late." Oh, what that group could have done if they'd just been able to get in the door, if for one lucky bounce one way or another. And yeah, I think it's going to happen. I think it's going to happen next year. I know I was saying that all this year, but you know what? This year, I think it's going to happen this coming year in 2022. And I'm not expecting a wild card berth. I think they're going to win the AL East division, and they're going to be a power for a number of years to come. And I, as a Blue Jays fan, absolutely can't wait to see it happen. And on that note, that's all I've got for you today. Thanks so much for tuning in. Let's go Blue Jays in 2022, and we'll keep an eye on the off season. It should be interesting.